All right, got my notes. I'm in this old yurt we got. A tree had fallen on it and smashed it, and so we're repairing it. Put some cotter pins in to do that, and it works pretty good. Anyway, season 8, episode 5 of Alone. Starts off with Clay building a landing net, which is an absolute must in many of these fishing situations. I'm always surprised to see when those don't get made because you just are liable to lose fish, especially if you have a steep shoreline, which is kind of what you might want for the best fishing spots because it'll at least have a deep area there. So he goes out there to fish. He drops his reel into the water, which probably isn't as scary as it looks because he probably has his line run through his eyes. It's not actually going to sink. He might have to pull up all his line, which would be very annoying. But something I was wondering about the whole show, since I'm starting with Clay, of course, they kind of start the episode with him. They go through his exploration of his land, finding some deer scat, and seeing a deer at the end. I'm not sure if it's just the editing or if he's the only one we're seeing, like getting out, exploring, finding scat, it just goes to show here again that exploration is invaluable. You have, again, we saw Biko swim across the lake and you think, why would he do that? But it is true. Like, what if over there was where he found the one pile of fresh deer scat? Well, this is the place to hunt. It looks like Clay's been running all around and he's only found a tiny bit of fresh deer sign. So it just goes to show that you really do need to explore, and whether it's editing or whether it's just what's going on, he seems to be the only one that's really out there exploring, learning his land and finding deer sign, and in some cases the lack thereof. But it's exciting for him and for me as a viewer to see him find that fresh deer sign. It's like, oh man, here's where they are. It can all go down here. It was kind of funny at the end of the episode. You can really relate to him going out there where his sign is, and then of course if you've hunted, go out, see a deer, he gets spotted by the deer and he's stuck there holding his camera like this. Interestingly, he has his tripod set up over there. He must have been getting set up before he saw the deer, or maybe it's a reshoot, I'm not sure, but it was kind of funny to watch him frozen like this. It doesn't seem like it was that long, but they might have clipped it. Sometimes when a deer is staring at you, they have a lot of patience and you'll get stuck in a lot of awkward positions, holding your bow or holding your camera, and you just have to sit there and wait it out until they kind of put their head down and move on, which right at the end of the episode, that's what he seems to do. Deer stops looking at him, figures it's nothing because Clay's very still, doesn't alert the deer to his presence. It's not like you want to try to draw a bow and shoot really fast. If the deer's looking at you, you have to wait till it decides you're nothing, turns and walks away, turns its head, goes to feed, or in Clay's case, goes behind a tree, runs squats down, draws back, and we have an exciting cliffhanger for next episode. Will somebody get big game again? I sure hope so. It'd be great to see. I guess that kind of leads me into something else I was gonna discuss along the lines of the regulations. There's a lot of people talking about, show, it's a bad place for the show because of the regulations, or some people even like the regulations because it makes people have to adapt and figure out even, more ways to survive. I'll say from my perspective, as a former contestant, I really liked where they did it if I look back psychologically, on our season, on season 7, where you have a lot of potential routes forward to sustainability, um, and they're very different. In Great Slave Lake, there could have been bear, could have been muskox, could have been moose, could have been just trapping. You could do pretty well, hang on quite a while just trapping, or the thing we never really saw happen up there, but that there is potential for, is finding sustainability in fishing alone. So there's a lot of different routes forward, meaning that when I got my moose, it's not like I could say, it's in the bag, like I figured somebody else might get something else big, and so even though I had a moose, I still had to outproduce somebody that potentially had a bear and the hundreds of pounds of fat, so it never took the pressure off. It took the immediate daily pressure of hunger away, but I never felt secure in my moose because who knows what everybody else is doing. Thus, a lot of my concerns about the fat and a lot of my concerns about tomorrow, the tomorrow that never came, because nobody else did get any big game or find sustainability. But also, maybe this leads me into where Matt is, because Matt on this episode is finding himself wrestling with living in the present and being in the present. And it's an interesting conundrum. That's what I've said this before, but if I would have just totally been in the present on my season, I could have had no stress, and I would have had no stress because there was no concern about running out of fat or running out of food inside of 100 days for me, inside of probably 120, 130, 40 days. I don't know. I had quite a bit of food left, and all my stresses were because I was not focusing just on the present, like just if I could have just, today I have enough food, today things are good, tomorrow will look out for itself. It's like that Bible verse talks about look at the birds of the air, all they're concerned about is their daily needs, and be like the birds. So if I could have followed that advice, I would have had really no stress on my season. And here, Matt, we have finding the same struggle where, shoot, if I could just live in the present. He talks about that a lot. And it is a big deal as far as stress goes. But, and it shows Matt some more. He does catch a fish, and, could have easily been a big fish, but it was a tiny fish. Just the luck of the draw in some situations, and unfortunately that doesn't nourish him much. We see him trying to improve his shelter, gets into a big nest of bees, which is, I've never seen the old sit still, I've never tried the old sit still and not get stung technique, which apparently didn't work for him that time. But usually your natural instinct is to take off running and try to get away. Anyway, ultimately we see Matt realize that the food out there is just not enough, that he's not making it happen, it's not happening for whatever reason, and so he taps out, and a lot you can get, everybody judges, and I'm glad to hear him be able to take away his ego and not worry about that too much. Hopefully it doesn't creep back up as he reads all the random comments and this and that, but he's got his family, he's got he's got what sounds like a good little life on the island out there, and hopefully he can just lean into that and not be stressed by all the internet hate. But it's a good practice in, and you do have to let go of some of your ego. It's easy to get overwhelmed by it, and especially on the internet, you naturally read negative comments and this and that, and they really stand out to you. So for those of you that do leave positive and supportive comments and stuff, thanks a lot. It's hard for it's hard to learn to take the good with the bad, let the bad go, and appreciate the support. So hopefully Matt can do that. We also see Michelle. She's trying. She makes a fish basket, as does Biko this episode. I have a hard time imagining them doing much. You know, you might maybe you'll get a fish in there too, but it's not gonna be anything close to sustainable, even with probably dozens of them out there. But maybe you'll catch a bait fish. Maybe that would improve your fishing. Unfortunately, again, I don't think they can use live bait on this season, so it's another regulation they have to work with. We did use, I've seen those fish traps be really effective in Russia. They fish for these little fish called, I think they're called yelki or something. But we'd get these, fish traps made out of screen, throw bread in there, and then throw those in the water, and you'd catch quite a few of these little fish. A substantial amount was worthwhile. But those were with like more, they're homemade but modern because they were using screen, fish traps and bait. Having that bread in there is what brings the fish over and has them searching around. So just a empty fish trap in the lake, you might get the occasional fish coming in seeking refuge, but it's going to be, like I said, hard. It doesn't hurt to try, But Michelle tries. It's interesting, something pulled her bait, her trap out of the water. Was there a fish in it, or was it just a curious bear? Who knows? Then we see her struggling with her weight and health issues related to that. And she was never big going in, so it was always going to be a uphill battle for her. And man, once you start seeing things like she was pointing out with her teeth being discolored, you don't know if your teeth are going to get weak. And like she said at the end, all you got is your health. It's definitely not worth sacrificing your health. And man, especially if you can see kind of the writing on the wall, it's day 20, 21, you're not really making it happen. It's like, well, maybe I'm not going to kill myself out here. And that's absolutely the right choice. And so I'm glad she did. It was interesting hearing her talk about her when she was younger having an eating disorder and overcoming that. I wonder, just for sake of people out there with those issues, like I wonder what it was that helped her overcome that as a young girl or whatever. So that'd be interesting to hear more of. I'm glad she left when she did. I'm glad she didn't harm her body anymore, and I hope she's recovered fully and doesn't have any dental issues going into the future. That would be very annoying and not worth it. So, yeah, we just saw a little bit of Biko and making his fish trap and seeing some bears and cubs. That's a little disconcerting. With the cubs, it gets a little nerve-wracking, guaranteed. He makes his little knife, his little scimitar there. It was pretty cool. And then we had Nate, and what did we see from Nate? Besides grooming his beard, he has a bad back, and this is something, I actually heard people on the internet, saw some people saying, why would you be making a bed when you should be making a fishing net or a this or that? One of the things, I even teach this on the classes I do, but one of the things you have to get in order is your sleep. And if you have a bad back, which I've had some experience with, but not like Nate here, who's had a couple surgeries, it is absolutely vital to figure out your sleeping. If you're sleep deprived, tired, you're never going to do well, and it's just a downhill spiral. You have a certain amount of sleep in a bank, and every day you sleep poorly, and you just go down, down, down until you're hardly able to function. So making a bed and getting good sleep is way up here on your priority list in a survival situation and in life, really. You gotta have good sleep, but it's really important out there. Made a cool little hammock thing, and I hope it takes that pressure off, because having a bad back is just a big bummer and a big problem to deal with if you're not getting good sleep. That's like becomes front and center very fast, right up there with food, even more so. So you have to sleep. And I've had enough experience with back issues that I've been on that downhill trajectory, and I know exactly what how bad that can be. So he does the right thing, and I hope it works. I hope that takes that variable out of the problem, because getting good sleep is super important. Can't say it enough. It's an overlooked aspect of survival that you'll only find out when you are not when you're not getting good sleep. So, that's kind of a brief rundown of the little things that happened. We saw Michelle and Matt go home. It's really tough with the regulations. Here we see Clay maybe coming up with an opportunity, and we don't know what Coulter and several of the people we didn't see, Rose, this episode. But with the regulations as they are, it looks like fishing's not much out there. Nobody's catching much. Definitely not anything close to sustainable. There's really only one option forward, and that is getting deer. And that really puts it in Clay's wheelhouse. It really, his strong suit is the route forward, basically. Getting a deer. That's really the only way to find a degree of sustainability, it looks like. We'll see if Coulter, how many fish he can get when he's out there in the water. The boat might be the only next best bet, and then it'll be, Biko with his extra body weight. You kind of see these few strategies play against each other. But yeah, it's if Clay can get a deer on the ground, that's a huge advantage. One of the other reasons that I like having fewer regulations is it puts less weight on chance, because you have, like your sight's not going to be as big of a deal. Because what if you get sight, like say on my season, if the only thing we would have been allowed to hunt is bear, then my sight would have been terrible because I didn't really have any bear. But because we were allowed moose, and we were allowed also muskox and fish and this and that, it gave me other options. You have plans B and C, and you can adapt effectively, which I really like. And it it allows less pressure to be on your site selection. So on my season, I had a site that had a moose, but I guarantee you that other sites had, either fishing, or there's bears all over, in most places up there, there's rabbits, there's other routes forward, there's always fishing. Here it really feels like there's been no success by anyone with fishing 3 weeks in. It really feels like without being able to hunt bears, without, with some of the other regulations they have, no nets and stuff like that, it's all on the deer. And so you better hope you have a little huntable buck. I don't think they can just shoot any doe or any animal that's around, so you gotta hope you find a little buck, big buck on your territory, and it's all there. And it looks like Clay's found one, so at the end of the episode we get the cliffhanger, and he's got a lot of momentum going if he can put a deer down. It's going to put some serious pressure on everybody else. Even though a deer doesn't have a ton of fat, it is vastly more sustainable than any of the other options we've seen so far. So anyway, we're excited for next week. Just a little brief review, and I'm going to be going up in the woods for the rest of the summer. I will be coming out each Sunday, so there's a chance I'll have time to watch an episode and put up a review, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to be a little late on the reviews potentially coming up. I'll see if I can get them out each Sunday. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys watching and hearing my thoughts, and appreciate all the comments and likes and subscribes and stuff like that. So thanks guys, and have a good one.